In history, we used to have cycles, upswings and downswings. They were aggressive in their own way, but compared to today, they were literally just a blip on the screen, a non-event. Now we have statistics that just don't add up, charts that make no sense, and a sense of danger lurking around every corner with no alerts ever being issued. What's going on here? You came here for the truth, so let me unveil that for you. We're going to talk about why the markets are broken. Let's begin. Take a look at this. If you want to know what the CSPP is, that's the ECB's program. And essentially what they've decided to do was buy up corporate debt. The ECB's hungry CSPP. This is what it has bought since June 2016. It shows you here. But let's take a look at this. Eurozone credit spreads. I've shown you a chart like this before. Immediately upon announcing the CSPP, we can see this on a very clear downtrend. Whenever a central bank decides to print money, there is no way around it. They will devalue the currency. And that's what we are seeing all around the world. A devaluation of currencies worldwide, and we see it showing up in assets. When you print money, you're simply inflating the pool of all of that currency. You make it bigger and bigger and bigger. And the example I like to talk about all the time is, imagine the central bank in your country gave each citizen $1 quadrillion. What would that do to the value of your currency? And of course, that's an extreme, silly example, but it makes the point very clear. You can't do that. But they're getting on that direction, that's for sure. This is the VIX. Okay, we're looking at the volatility index. And again, it goes down to levels that are historically never been at these lows. Never. You're seeing it decline. It might spike for brief moments, but still, it is keeping under these levels around 10. It's been fluctuating back and forth, but that level of 10, which is historically extremely low, it's not going anywhere in this region. It won't go above it, no matter how much risk, how much fragility is present. All that the market cares about is that the Federal Reserve and other central banks will print. The only thing that matters is, will the Federal Reserve keep up their end of the bargain? And that has completely broken these markets. We have zombie firms that exist today. And the Biz has a report, and they talk about zombie firms. They're on the rise since the financial crisis. It's not as if during the financial crisis those were exposed. No, they are actually increasing. The amount of zombie firms today are far greater than they were in 2009. Especially worrisome is the high percentage of firms unable to cover interest costs with profits. Okay, that's what they call zombie firms, despite historically low interest rates. Something I talk about all the time. They're getting easy money, and still they cannot cover their costs. Now, what's going to happen if interest rates continue to increase? Of course, we are going to have a disaster on our hands. This points to considerable obstacles in redeploying resources to their more productive uses. Right now, everything is trying to keep the markets alive, trying to print, trying to buy up the debt, trying to keep interest rates low. If they want to reverse that, then they are going to crash the economy. They're going to start destroying corporations. And the only solution to all of this will be to begin nationalizing certain institutions, maybe banks. Then you will have assets being bought up by rich individuals, by other corporations. They will be taking on more and more. You will have more Greek islands being sold off. You'll have airports and infrastructure and roads being bought by companies, rich individuals, and they will leave each nation. That's what's happening today. This is the biggest transfer of wealth that has ever occurred. It started in 2008. Most people aren't a part of it. You know, if they're investing in some stock or some bonds and they believe they've been making a profit, that's nothing compared to what's going on. Intentionally destroying countries so that they can take the assets from these nations and transfer it into the hands of the few. Now, this Biz report gets into a lot more here. I won't cover it all. There's so much more to get to here. Just know that these zombie firms have been increasing since 2008. What we're looking at in this one is talking about China. Traders, investors, they want to be able to trade oil futures on a Chinese exchange. There have been speculators pumping trillions of yuan into the country's fledgling commodities bourses, trading in everything from eggs to iron ore futures with extraordinary intensity. She's now waiting for the launch of China's delayed domestic crude contracts, hoping it'll be there in time for Christmas. That's what they want. They want the yuan-based oil exchange. We'll see what happens. There's been some delays apparently, but it seems like it's going to come online, and I don't believe that this will supplant the US-based markets anytime soon. But in a longer term scenario, this is definitely bullish for China. Chinese commodities, derivatives, trading, and turnover exploded in the past 6 years. You can see that very evidently here in this case. Now, Baltimore is unfortunately undergoing a lot of the same issues that are taking place in a place like Detroit, for example. And this is one that nobody foresaw previously, something that I've been talking about the importance of, and of course, as normal, being ridiculed by some. Sharp increases in the price of tap water have pushed some of Baltimore's poorest residents far beyond their ability to pay their bills. And it's something that is so important for the average individual. Food, water, shelter. And they can't even get one of these basic items. Tap water. As more and more people can't afford to pay, the city could find itself in a downward spiral, forced to impose a larger and larger price increases to pay for court-ordered infrastructure upgrades. Even though Baltimore is raising its water and sewer rates, it's also seen the incredibly high increase of the amount of money that is not collecting from its billing. So, what's going to happen? Well, of course, the government may step in and may help out, but that ultimately puts a bigger burden on the city as a whole. That's not a solution. The average individual, you need to have your own preparedness. If you lived in a more rural setting and you had a well, maybe you lived near a spring, maybe you had a river, maybe you lived near a body of water, maybe you were catching rain from your roof, lands into a big container. This is generally possible on a relatively larger piece of land, usually. It's not in a, apartment building you're going to be able to have this. But for those individuals who have seen what's coming, they have been preparing. And should the price go up, okay, I will then turn to my own resources. Maybe I can be tied into the city, but if things start looking bad, I can tie into my own resources. Smart idea. These people here are suffering the effects of the inflationary pressures, bad judgment calls, the financial system basically failing on the average individual. Very big mistake that many people are making to trust. This here is about the public schools essentially passing children that are failing because it's an epidemic. There's so many children failing that the principals now sending out messages to the teachers just saying, look, if they're not at 60%, just put them at 60, pass them through, let's get this to happen. It shows you what's going on in all of these cities. Toys R Us going bankrupt. Look at this. Considering closing 100 to 200 stores. Now, if they close 200 stores, that would represent about 22% of its total store base in the US. Now, that is extreme. That's something that, multifaceted here. I've talked about it before, how we have a lot of retail, too much retail, a lot of it's going online, but we still look at the online sales. They represent about 9% of total sales, so we know that it's small. We know that there are the big guys like Amazon that are putting a lot of these companies out of business. Maybe these two are expensive to have the retail locations. There's a lot here. I've covered it many times before. Just wanted to show you the fact that this is one big company that I remember growing up, and it might be gone tomorrow. So that's all for this video. If you found it informative, please give me a thumbs up. Last but not least, if you found the video informative, I know you will find my books, The Money GPS, and my newer release, Global Economic Collapse, even more informative. You can actually flip through these books. If you go over to Amazon, there's a look inside feature that will allow you to flip through the pages of these books to see if you like them. Take care.